Welcome to the Open Forum in the Villages, Florida podcast. In this show, we talk to leaders in the community, leaders of clubs, and interesting folks who live here in the Villages to get perspectives of what is happening here in the Villages, Florida. We are a listener-supported podcast. There will be shout-outs for supporters in episodes. In Season 6, we will continue making substantial improvements to the podcast.
This is Mike Roth. I wanted to tell all of my listeners about my new podcasting course, which is coming up on February 13th, 20th, and 27th through the Villages Enrichment Academy. The course will be held at the Rohan Recreation Center, and the course will take a total podcasting beginner and turn you into someone who knows how to put together a good podcast. We're going to start with the concepts of a podcast and the way to lay out a successful strategy to begin. In the second week, we're going to take you through recording and editing a podcast. And in the third week, one of the things we're going to talk about is how to monetize your podcast if that's what your goal is. Although there are many different goals in creating a podcast. If anyone wants to talk to me about what's in the course and whether or not they should take it, feel free to reach out to me at mike@rothvoice.com. If you've already decided that you want to register for the Podcasting 101 class for beginners, there are 3 easy ways to register. The first way is you can register online on that site, theenrichmentacademy.org. The second way to register is in person, Monday through Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. at any one of your regional recreation centers. It's also available on Saturdays and Sundays from 8:30 a.m. to noon at La Hacienda, Lake Neona, Eisenhower, Everglades, and Rohan Recreation Center. And of course, we can always do it the old-fashioned way by mailing in a Enrichment Academy form to the Enrichment Academy offices at 984 Old Mill Run in the Villages. Now, let's go back to our show. Listeners, I'm thrilled to share with you this podcast, which is my passion project for you. This podcast brings me joy, brings you knowledge, inspiration, and a lot of things that people need to know about the Villages and the people living here. Be sure to hit the follow button to get the newest episode each week. Creating this podcast is a labor of love, even though it demands more time than I can easily spare. Now, here's where you come in. You can help us keep the podcast alive and thriving. How? By becoming a supporter. The easy way for you to support us is to visit our podcast webpage, openforuminthevillagesflorida.com, and click on the supporter button at the top of the page, or the purple supporter box on the right side of the page. Even a small donation of $3 to $10 a month makes a big difference. And guess what? You can cancel your subscription at any time. No strings attached. Your support means the world to us. Stay curious, stay inspired, and keep those headphones on. I hope everyone enjoys today's show. Mike Roth on Open Forum in the Villages, Florida, with Janine Evans. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
Janine is in the interior decorating business and has been in the interior decorating business for the past 25 years. Janine, tell our listeners about yourself and how you got into the business of interior decorating.
I moved here from Dallas, Texas. When I was 35 years old, I decided to start an interior design business in Dallas. It was something I thought I could do and I had a talent for. I went for it, worked hard, and word of mouth spread. I was able to get a lot of clients and projects under my belt, and I continue to work and decorate for the past 25, 30 years now.
Were most of your projects home redecorating or commercial?
Most of my work was in home residential design. I did work on about 4 law firms when I was back in Dallas, but mostly in my career I've stuck with residential interiors.
I understand in your past you were a ballet dancer.
I've done a lot of ballet. I've taught ballet. I had a ballet scholarship to college and I continued to take class and perform every now and again as an adult in between kids and career.
So are you associated with any dance groups in the villages?
I'm a member of the Evolution Dance Troupe. We have a show coming up in late January.
Where's that show going to be?
That's going to be at the Savannah Center.
Okay. Our listeners can see you in that show, and you'll probably be the tallest lady in the group.
It's a great show, and the dancers in the group are amazing. I'm really looking forward to performing with them. I'd love for everyone to come and see.
Is there a name for the show?
It's, my gosh.
Don't worry. That's the beauty of not being live.
It is a beauty. I'm so glad. I've got the date in there.
Get closer to the microphone. The name of the show is?
The name of the show is Where in the World is Evolution Dance? On stage in 14 countries at the Savannah Center, January 24th at 7 p.m. and January 20th at 3 p.m.
How do people get tickets to that show?
They get their tickets at the Villages box office. A portion of the proceeds will benefit the Villagers for Veterans, Ashley House, and Villages Flight.
Janine, let's talk about interior decorating. You've been working on houses here in the Villages for how many years now?
I've been in the Villages.
Mm-hmm. Why don't you tell our listeners the most common issues people ask you to address?
I think common issues that I come across or common mistakes is that people live with their frustration of their house for way too long. Instead of hiring a decorator or a professional, they choose to live with the same frustrations of their homes. I believe everywhere in your house that you look should bring you pleasure and it should be beautiful to your eyes. It shouldn't bring a sense of contention when you look at something. If you ignore it, it still affects your inner peace when you're living inside your home.
Can you give an example of that from your recent work?
Well, there was a lady that hired me to help her with her house, and she, throughout the years, had continued to buy a lot of different accessories, different artwork, some pieces of furniture, and she was never satisfied with the end result. This woman, for 10, 20 years, kept on trying herself, let me do this, let me try that, and would study magazines and watch the shows and would try everything in her power to make her home look like what wanted it to look like.
Mm-hmm.
And so she finally realized, I'm just extremely frustrated. I'm not getting my place to look like how I want it to. She hired me to come in. I came in, talked with her, looked around and listened to her. She had some beautiful things and some things maybe not so much, but I rearranged everything in her house. I placed the furniture in a better position.
Mm-hmm.
I rearranged the art and accessories she had and hung things. And we came up with a list of things she needed to finish her house.
Mm-hmm.
Often people get to a certain point when they're decorating their houses and they stop decorating. They stop. They think they're at a finish point. Proper lighting, nice lamps, good bedding. They just stop once they get to a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Once they stop, sometimes they'll continue decorating.
Mm-hmm.
A few months later, they'll look at the same thing they bought. I've had people buy sofas over and over again. It's not your sofa you need to replace. It's what's surrounding your sofa, your throw pillows, the rug underneath. Oftentimes, it's just a matter of adding new things, rearranging the old things. Everything can look completely different. Where in your house, when you look around, you're like, oh, I like that. Your eyes rest upon the corner of the lanai and you're like, that looks really nice. Or in the kitchen, that looks really nice. I like how that looks. The living room.
What do you think of those new sofas that you hook together and can make different shapes?
They can be good. It all depends on your space. If you have an L-shaped sofa and you need to hook it on the other end and make it the opposite, it's good. So it really just depends on the space that you have to work with.
And you talked about the woman who had a sofa buying habit. How did she get rid of the old sofas?
Here, you could just put it on the curb and somebody will take it, but there's plenty of secondhand stores or furniture stores around here that will gladly sell your things for you or Facebook Marketplace. I was in a home and it was a very nice home. The lady of the house had really taken her time and picked out beautiful pieces of artwork and furniture and accessories, and it really looked nice. And then I'm looking at her dining room thinking, oh, it's really pretty. It's very lovely. I look at her chandelier, her light fixture. It was a builder grade chandelier that came with the house, a silver aluminum piece that probably weighed no more than 5 pounds. It looked out of proportion with the dining room table. It didn't look complementary to all of the beautiful furniture she'd picked out and bought, spending lots of money. The light fixture, the focal point in the room, didn't fit with what she was getting.
Chandelier in a room with a $3,000 table.
Yes. And I'll say this, it is not about going out and buying a $3,000 chandelier or thousands of dollars worth of lighting nowadays doesn't have to cost a lot. If you have the right eye and know how to pick something out, it mostly needs to be in proportion and the finishes need to go with the other furnishings around it. I try to pick out things that are different. I get tired of looking at the same old things online or in stores. So I try my best to pick out unique pieces. Some of them may cost more, some of them not. That's why it's important to have a decorator or a professional come in with a fresh eye to look around and suggest different chandeliers.
Yeah. Is there one thing that's very common here in the villages that people need that you find in many of your cases?
Mostly it is the hanging of the artwork on the walls. It really needs to be in proportion with the wall space and what's underneath it. It's mostly about proportion and balance with the furniture underneath. Otherwise, it's not going to look right. There was a lady with a beautiful house, nice chandeliers and sofas, but she had a large portrait hanging in her dining room. It was a print of a painting, and it was flat. It was just completely flat. It looked like a poster almost. And I just thought, what a shame. Here you have spent thousands of dollars on all of this really pretty furniture. You really put the effort in to make your place look nice. And then we're going to have just something that's a copy, obviously a copy up on the wall. I'm not saying that you have to find original artwork, but there's like giclées that look like a giclée.
I've never heard of it.
Giclée.
What is that?
Clay is basically a print of a painting that has actual paint strokes on it, and it's been painted over. And that's a simple way of just saying what a giclée. It looks like it's got texture on it.
It's got 3 dimensions as opposed to a printed poster, which is 2 dimensions. Okay. Janine, maybe you can give our listeners a couple of tips in home decorating that they might be able to handle themselves or figure out that they need to hire a professional.
Okay. Here's a couple of tips that you don't need a decorator or professional for. Sometimes I'll go into a house and see real candles. I love real candles, but I think people are afraid to use them nowadays. They really add to the ambiance, and you shouldn't be afraid. Often I'll see candles still wrapped in plastic, gathering dust. What you want to do is take your candles out of the plastic. If it's in a glass jar, it has an ugly label, take the label off. Cut the wick down. Because the wicks are extra long, you really just need a little wick. Light it for a little bit, let it gather, then blow it out. Have it up on a shelf, cabinet, or countertop. And that way it looks like it's been used. Some candles look so dusty and dated like they've never been used. After you've used the candle, blow it out. Next time you use it, cut that wick down again.
That's a good tip. Yeah. Someplace in all the moves I've made, I lost them when I was in Hawaii. The first or second time I bought these wonderful multicolored candles that were cut down and had layers on the inside. It was beautiful. When I left California, I don't think I ever saw them again when we got to Cincinnati. Well, they got lost in the basement in Cincinnati, but they never made it here to the villages. They were very pretty candles.
They're pretty, and they probably just gathered dust on them, and the wick was probably an inch long, and it never had really been used. That's a little trick I learned back in Dallas from this interior designer. She was like, we have to cut the wick down, light it, and make it look like it's being used. Even if it's not, then keep it clean.
Okay.
Another thing that people don't really notice, but on our electrical cords that we have everywhere on our lamps, what have you, there's a big tag that says what to do. I don't even know what it says. It probably says, don't cut the cord, pair of shears.
It does this, don't cut the
Cut the tag off. You don't really need it. If you can trust in yourself, cut the tags off. They are just an eyesore. Look for cords and try to make that cord disappear. I've seen cords on chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. Beautiful tiny rooms. Like,
getting embarrassed because we have cords all over the place.
that's a working studio. And this goes along to throw pillows. If you have a
label.
big tag off of your throw pillow, cut the tag off. It is not doing you any favor, and it's an eyesore. Don't be afraid to cut tags off.
We've all seen them on mattresses and pillows. Do not remove this tag.
I'm saying remove this tag.
Are there any other tips that you have in the top of your head?
Everybody around here seems to have a lot of greenery, fake greenery inside their houses. Make sure that you keep your table centerpieces clean. Real plants don't get dust on them, so let's keep them dusted and clean. Use a damp cloth, wash them off. And sometimes you have to say goodbye. You want to take them, and after a while, they look wilty.
Okay, so you
They're
push them back
"Arr,"
up.
and they really start looking like plastic. So you want to push them up, zhuzh them up, fix their hair, fix their tendrils,
Okay, that makes sense.
keep them fresh.
Do you think people should have houseplants in their homes?
I think they should try, but I don't think it's necessary. A lot of people travel. Unless you've got a green thumb and you enjoy taking care of it, you don't want something that's going to be a chore that you're not going to enjoy. Make sure that you enjoy it. You have your one plant and you can try to keep it alive and keep it looking good. You might enjoy that.
What are your feelings about the solar tubes?
Oh, yeah, I'm all for these solar tubes. I think they're a good idea. I've got about 3 in my house, and otherwise it would be like a dark cave. We have all this natural sunlight here in Florida, and these homes need those solar lights. So I would say definitely get a quote on that.
I just had my first one put in. I like it very much.
Yeah.
I didn't have approval to put one into the studio. The studio's a little bit dark.
I was wondering why it's so dark in here.
The studio is made to be sound dead, and so we've covered over the window, the walls with sound deadening foam.
Please don't murder me.
When they come by with the lawnmowers, I have to stop recording.
Okay.
Is it expensive to use an interior decorator like yourself?
I charge $75 an hour, and that's it. I charge $75 an hour, and I work fast, and I have a lot of experience under my belt. I think it's more expensive to keep trying to work on your house yourself and keep making the same mistakes or keep feeling the same frustration over and over again.
What happens when you run into folks here in the villages that say, I have to keep that table or that chair because of the history it has with me and my family?
Absolutely. I'm all for keeping those items that are sentimental to you. I would never tell somebody to get rid of something that was special to them. I like to incorporate the old with the new, traditional with the contemporary. My job is to listen to what people want in their homes and to bring the best of that to fruition.
We're going to take a break now and listen to Dr. Craig Curtis. Dr. Curtis, what can someone do if they know that they have Alzheimer's that runs in their family?
So there's a lot that they can do. So published actually in the Journal of the American Medical Association in February of 2024. This was a study done primarily at Rush University in Chicago, looking at those with brain amyloid. So those people that already have amyloid, can a healthy lifestyle protect them from developing dementia? And the answer was yes, by following these five healthy habits that were tracked. And those were: they did not smoke, they did moderate exercise for at least 150 minutes a week, they kept their alcohol consumption diet, and they used autopsies. They actually used approximately 530 autopsies to prove that those that followed those healthy lifestyle habits or had those healthy lifestyle habits actually had less amyloid. It correlated. Those had less amyloid in their brain.
With over 20 years of experience studying brain health, Dr. Curtis's goal is to educate the village's community on how to live a longer, healthier life. To learn more, visit his website, craigcurtismd.com, or call 352-500-5252 to attend a free seminar.
I'm back with interior designer and decorator Janine Evans. Janine.
What's the newest trend in home decorating that you think would fit in many village homes here?
We're a little bit behind the newest trends here in the villages.
Behind?
What's coming up with paint colors are a lot of browns, caramel color, and yellows, which I do like. Terracotta color is really pretty and nice and rich. When I go into a home, some people think they don't know what they like or want. I take the time, look around, listen to what they like, and show them different various things. And inevitably, I get a feel of what they like. I brought a copy of Architectural Digest magazine with me today. And the reason why I bought that is because 3 or 4 different kitchens in this copy of Architectural Digest, and all of the kitchen cabinets are completely different colors. One is white, one is a dark forest green, one is a really pretty charcoal gray and a light gray.
Yeah, I saw
And
the
did you see
magazine,
that?
and it said AD on the cover. The first thought that went through my mind was Alzheimer's disease.
Mike,
That's
your-
Dr.
Your
Curtis.
thought path is on the wrong wavelength here. But
What?
the point that I'm trying to make is that these kitchens are all beautiful. So design can look all different kinds of ways. I would say don't be stuck.
I'll give you an example.
Re-
I had a friend, he bought a house in Port St. Lucie, remodeled it. He went into a room with 3 walls, each different color. Sometimes the walls were very different, sometimes just a few shades different. But it was a very weird remodeling when he finished with it. He was thrilled with it. He loved it.
That's what counts.
Me? Me, not so much.
We're not all going to everybody's
Taste. I think that was a good word.
taste. That sounds like a lot of colors he was using.
He had a lot of colors.
Did he have help with that?
Chet knew everything about everything. He knew the best way to do everything, and you couldn't tell him otherwise.
Okay.
When he was wrong, he was right.
Chet paid himself $75 an hour.
Knowing Chet, he paid himself $0 per hour as an architect, but might make $5,000 an hour as a financial planner.
Well,
He felt he was getting his money's worth, and he would buy antiques, have them refinished, and put into the house.
I love to see all different kinds of houses and homes.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour run down to Port St. Lucie from here, so I didn't go down there very often. If someone wants to get a hold of you after the show and ask you to come in for a consultation on decorating their home, how do they do that?
All right. They can give me a call or they can text me at 352-818-3284, or they can email me at decoranddesign, the number 4, the letter U, decoranddesign4you@gmail.com.
What is the most ridiculous request you've gotten as an interior decorator?
I was a real estate agent back in Dallas, and the most ridiculous was when I was looking for a house for a gentleman moving to Dallas from California. I found his house for him, and then he was like, I don't know if I want it because it doesn't have a Janine in it. I was like, oh my goodness, that about takes cake. Yes.
He wanted you to stay with. I can understand that.
Fired.
Okay. Do you have a funny story that you tell about interior decorating to clients?
It seems to have dried up.
We could always put you to work in the next improv show in February.
I know. I need to get the juices going, the funny bones going again.
Well, we're restarting the improv and stand-up comedy club that used to meet on Friday nights. A new lady took it over. We don't have the new details yet, but I will get that into the next show.
Oh,
Primarily, I'm going to call it scripted comedy. Stand-up is really scripted comedy that's been well rehearsed. And scripted comedy, while John Case was running it, we came up with 2 or 3 very funny scripted pieces. The Village's Men's Store was my favorite.
nice.
The gist of the scene is that the Village's management decided that the women of the Villages deserve something better, so they got rid of one of the golf cart stores in the Villages and they put in a store called the Village's Men's Shop, where they sold animatronic men. Each model had certain specialties. They had a golfer, a pickle who could always work in the
Yeah.
kitchen, and my favorite was the Casanova model.
Oh, yeah. I bet that one's popular.
That was the most popular model in the store. If you could go back in time 25 years and tell a younger Janine a piece of advice from stuff that you've learned, what would you tell the younger Janine?
I would tell the younger Janine, don't sweat the small stuff and just keep doing your best and showing up, because that's always going to be enough.
You got to show up. That really counts in everything in life.
It does.
So many people stop showing up and wonder why things don't go well for them.
There have been times in my life where people are like, oh, everything is going to be okay. Looking back from my older self, it's really true. Things do, with time, pass and life goes on.
Yeah, there was a consultant that we employed when I was working at Sandler as a franchisee, named Paul Stoltz. He created a personality test. He was testing for the difference between people who succeed in life and business and people who don't. He called it an adversity quotient. Those people who had high adversity quotients and recovered from adversity fast did better in life than people who had lower adversity quotient and didn't recover from adversity quickly.
I believe.
And I found that to be true.
Yes.
So we all have to have high adversity quotients. And we don't like our home. Give Janine a call.
Give me a call.
Give everyone your number again, Janine.
35281838284.
I look forward to hearing from everybody.
Thanks very much, Janine.
Thank you for having me.
Remember, our next episode will be released next Friday at 9 a.m. Should you want to become a major supporter of the show or have questions, please contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. This is a shout-out for supporters: Tweet Coleman, Ed Williams, Duane Romick, Paul Sorgen, Kathy Loving, and Dr. Craig Curtis at K2 in the Villages. We will be hearing more from Dr. Curtis with short Alzheimer's tips each week. If you know someone who should be on the show, contact us at mike@rothvoice.com. We thank everyone for listening to the show. The content of the show is copyrighted by Rothvoice 2024. All rights reserved.